Good afternoon, everyone. This is Michelle Imbernoni. I wanted to welcome you this afternoon and say thank you for joining us on today's webinar. We are going to ask that you please do a quick sound check, and if you are experiencing any difficulties, that you go ahead and post that in the Q&A, and we will work to remedy that situation for you as quickly as possible. Thank you for those of you who did take an opportunity to respond to the lobby question. We will be responding to those questions that you generated in just a few minutes, and we do want to say thank you again. We do have consultants available in the room, so we are going to take a look at those questions and generate some thoughtful answers to you and talk about those that you did post. We do want to remind you that there are documents available for download, so you're going to want to take just a quick second or two to make sure that you did take an opportunity to go ahead and download those. After a few minutes after we get started with the webinar, those files will disappear for those of you who aren't familiar with the technique, but they will be available for download a little bit later in the session this afternoon. Also, for those of you who are live on Twitter, please go ahead and make sure that you are trending and following that live with hashtag #OwningMyEvaluation, and we want to say thank you again for joining us this afternoon. Very quickly, just as we want to tell you a little bit about us, we do have a new name, and we want to share out that new information with you, and we are very excited by the new office branding. Our office is now known as the Office of Educator Excellence. And this afternoon, I am here in the room. Also is Brian Lloyd, one of our student growth specialists. He is a consultant here in the department. And also joining us is my colleague, Joe Priest. And we are very excited to share with you this content that is built in collaboration with a fantastic group of teacher leaders across our state. That group is known as the Michigan Teacher Leadership Council, or MTLAC for short. These members have provided insight, which has allowed us to focus in on some of the specific questions that are being asked by our Michigan teachers throughout our Michigan schools. So a little bit about today, just to remind you, for those of you who may be participating for the first time and aren't too sure about the process, your participation and feedback are very important and vital to us. So during the webinar, there is a Q&A feature to post your questions and to respond to poll questions throughout and interact with us. There will be some live links and some resources available for download. After the webinar, for Sketch Credit, you will be able to get a survey link to follow up with the process. And also, after the webinar concludes, Joe will follow up with a PDF expanded Q&A and a PowerPoint deck for today's webinar, so that you'll have access to all this information again. So please don't feel like you have to frantically try to write down some notes. We want you to stay with us, be engaged in the content, ask some thoughtful questions as they come to you, and make sure that you are part of the process and stay with us. And we are so happy that you are able to join us. And it truly is our honor to host this meeting with you, and we want to say thank you for taking time out of your day. We recognize how important and valuable your work is in the schools, and so we want to say thank you for carving out some time that we know could be spent with your families and doing other things, so thank you for that. We are excited to share this content with you in support of your professional practices during the educator evaluation cycles of continuous improvement. Our goal is to provide you with information and guidance that will empower teachers to take ownership of their evaluation and professional growth processes. We want to encourage your participation during the webinar, and we have more poll questions and group responses. Please also use the Q&A pod, as I mentioned, to post any questions that you have. Also, if you notice that sometimes our sound feed cuts out, please just notice that we'll jump right back on, so just hang in there and don't panic. We'll get right back to it as quickly as we can. We talked about sketch credits, so again, just as a reminder, you do have to complete that survey to be eligible to receive sketch credit after the webinar concludes. We understand that you are taking this webinar because you value professional learning, and we want to just again say thank you for joining us and carving out time. And while this webinar content is vendor agnostic and not specific to any one individual evaluation tool or framework, instead we want to provide guidance around best practices that could be brought into any of the frameworks. So thank you for joining us again today, and we're going to go ahead and dive right into our top 10 and 10 talking about strategic goal number 3. MDE believes that high-quality educator evaluations can support both student learning as well as educator well-being. High-quality evaluations can provide teachers with critical feedback on how they can improve their own practice to impact the lives of students. Additionally, it's important to facilitate educators' personal pursuits of excellence. Systematic improvements to educator evaluations in schools and districts play an essential role in improving targeted professional learning responsive to the needs of educators. Our areas of focus today, we're going to be checking on progress towards your professional goals, and we have 4 areas that we want to check in on today. Professional goals within the evaluation cycle, preparing to assess for progress, your action steps for formative assessment of progress, and strategies to support your reflection and growth. Our main focus will be to support your reflection regarding your progress toward your goals and that have been established for this year. Prior to jumping right into the content, we wanted to spend some time addressing the pressing questions from our participants. So let's go ahead and discuss the questions that you posted in our opening poll question.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Joe Priest. Thank you again for joining us today. We're going to take a look at some poll questions and see what we can do to put together some responses to answer the questions that are out there in the field.
Joe's having some technical difficulties, so I'm going to go ahead and pitch in real quick. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at one of the questions that was generated from your poll questions today. One of the questions that was generated was, how often are evaluation tools expected to be updated in a district? And because our state is local control, that's a determining factor that the superintendent would be able to determine along with his administrative leadership cabinet. And quite often the superintendent would then be able to take that recommendation forward and be able to take a look at the tool. Oftentimes your evaluation tools are updated through new research and best practice and be able to get enhancements. Also, because those 4 tools that have been approved that are on the state approved list right now do have opportunities for improvement, they do often get new versions that are put forward. Additionally, while those 4 tools are on the approved list right now, there is a mechanism in place here at the Michigan Department of Education for tools to be approved, and there is a process moving forward for other tools to be approved. So we look forward to seeing other tools become approved on that state list.
Hello, everyone. This is Joe Priest. I'm going to try to go ahead and answer one of the poll questions that is out there again. And once again, if you have not had a chance to respond with one of those with a question that's on your mind, please go ahead and pop it in there, and we'll do our best to answer it live here as we're starting our webinar with a little bit of a live Q&A. There was a question in our poll by one of our participants here about the non-research-based components that could be added into the evaluation system. The legislation specifically talks about additional factors that can be considered as part of the evaluation process. Some of those might be things like employee attendance, significant accomplishments and contributions to the district, relevant special training, and different items like that that could be not only used as a way to provide feedback, but also as a way to differentiate between different levels of performance. And ultimately, as Michelle mentioned, the legislation does provide some overall guidance, but there is a fair amount of local control and decision-making authority that is allowed to be had within the legislation. So many of those decisions can be made by the district level. And so we do see some variance and some differing practices out there around that. We have another question in here regarding, I just saw it here, how we know that evaluators are being consistent with expectations. And we provide guidance to evaluators and administrators to help try to have some inter-rater reliability within their district teams. So we provide guidance that helps to review effective teaching practices, review common instructional segments, and try to come together on some common definitions for expectations in the district. But ultimately, our districts that are having the most success with educator evaluations are the ones that make it a priority to continue to review and have those conversations, not only with their administrative teams, but also with their teachers as well. So if in your local context that is not happening, consider how as a teacher leader you might be able to start some of those efforts with your teaching colleagues to break apart the rubric, to have conversations about what that looks like in the classroom, and to really be the change to use new strategies and really grow your practices. See, it looks like we might have just got another new question here. Oh, there is a question in here about pivot goals being connected to your evaluation. My understanding of Pivot is that is an online management system for the evaluation process. So I'm guessing that the goals in Pivot must be related to the professional growth plans. So the professional growth plans that teachers develop should drive their work and their professional development for the year, and also be part of the process that an evaluator and a teacher discuss when they sit down together at the mid-year conferences and end-of-year conferences as a way to check in and to guide professional learning for that teacher throughout the school year. And actually, much of the work of our webinar today, much of the content, really does focus in on how to best review those goals and make adjustments to those as needed. So I hope that we can address that topic a little bit through our content today as well. And we're just letting some questions roll in here, so if you haven't had a chance to pop a question in there, again, please feel free to do that. We'd love to spend some time. We've got another couple minutes dedicated to our question and answer session here before we get rolling with our content.
We have a question regarding whether or not administrators are evaluated using similar tools. And actually, in a public school setting, the administrator evaluated tool would be posted on your posting and assurances page, and that administrator tool would be cited there. And their tool is much like a teacher evaluation tool in the fact that they have goals and they have a self-reflection piece that follows a cycle similar to the evaluation cycle that you are used to as a teacher. They have an opportunity to sit down and engage in a conversation with their superintendent or assistant superintendent, depending on how the responsibilities have been delegated out. And they have an opportunity to decide or discuss goals as they are related to their assignment. So the similarities really do have an extension, and also their student achievement goals are directly related and tied to their performance, just as a teacher's student achievement goal is directly related to and correlated to their performance rating as well. In charter schools, I'm not sure about all the tools, whether directly aligned. It would depend if you are part of the Association for Non-Public Schools. So some of those settings are a little bit different, whether or not your evaluation tool would be the same. But typically, that is something that would be discussed with your superintendent, and that evaluation tool is typically decided in that setting.
Thank you, everyone, for your participation in that question and answer. I know we were not able to get to all the questions. We do have a question and answer pod in all of our, along to the right-hand side of our content there. So feel free to put in questions throughout the webinar. We'll try to answer as many of those as possible while we're working live through our content. And any of those that we can't get today, we'll do our best to expand those answers and send those out to you through our email follow-up after the webinar. So let's look ahead into our content for today. So this webinar series is focused on professional growth and specifically identifying opportunities within the evaluation cycle for teacher involvement and ownership. When we focus on the evaluation cycle as a tool for continuous learning and improvement, we uncover lots of opportunities for educators to plan for and engage in professional learning throughout the cycle of continuous learning. The questions on this slide are intended to guide educators and evaluators in thinking about how to connect this process with the process of educator evaluation with professional learning. So let's take a look at this slide together, starting with the self-assessment at the top. So during the self-assessment stage of the evaluation cycle, the question that connects to professional development or professional learning is thinking about how can professional learning activities support areas in which you need to grow and improve. Moving on to the next step, or the next stage of the cycle, when we're setting goals and making plans, what professional development activities do we need to meet our goals? That's another way that professional learning connects with this cycle. As we start to implement our plans throughout the school year, what professional development will we be participating in, and how will we embed those activities within our daily practice? We're going to spend quite a bit of time today on the next stage of the cycle, which is that formative assessment, reflection, evaluation stage of the process. When we're here, we're thinking about are the professional learning activities supporting our practice and helping us make progress towards our goals? And do we need to make any changes or alterations to our plan? And then when we get to our summative evaluation, which is coming up here in the next few months, we're going to be asking ourselves the question, did our professional learning activities help us attain our goals? And what goals do we have for the future, and what do we still want to learn more about? For today's efforts, we'll be focusing again on the formative assessment and reflection portion of the evaluation process. It's important to revisit our professional learning plans at different times throughout the school year to engage in reflection and make adjustments as needed. Again, the questions at this juncture of the evaluation cycle are the professional development activities that I planned as part of my growth plan helping me make progress towards the goals that I set for myself and my students? Or do we need to make some adjustments to our practice or to our activities to support the continued growth leading up to our end-of-year summative evaluation? We shared this slide with you during our last webinar, some survey information, national survey information from the U.S. Department of Education. But we wanted to highlight these survey results another time and emphasize that nationally, teachers are feeling less influence on their evaluation processes than many other aspects of their work, including setting academic standards, establishing curriculum, determining professional learning topics, and selecting new staff members. So ultimately, the goal of this webinar series is to encourage teachers to find those opportunities for involvement and participation in their evaluation process so that they can feel involved and engaged in that process and feel like that they are the driver of their evaluation process. And we believe that the formative reflection portion of the evaluation process provides yet another opportunity for teachers to engage with their evaluator and ultimately have influence over their evaluation process. We're going to talk briefly about two different types of evaluation models. First, we're going to talk about the inspection model. This model was traditionally used most often with new educators to determine eligibility for tenure. However, around 2011, this process expanded to many educators as a way to better differentiate educator effectiveness and focus professional learning activities. The key questions that an evaluator seeks to answer are listed on the slide. What level of proficiency does this individual educator possess? And is this individual on track to become an effective educator? In this type of model, supervisors observe the individual educator in action, record information, collect written evidence of the educator effectiveness like lesson plans and test scores. Then the supervisor rates the individual, making a determination of the level of effectiveness of the educator. There are advantages to this type of model. One is that employees are evaluated in a very standard manner, and educators must demonstrate their instructional skills. This is very much a walk-the-walk type of model. There are challenges to this type of model, though. The standard approach may not always be flexible enough to support every unique teaching environment. Another challenge is there will always be some variability in the skills of evaluators, and evaluators may be challenged to complete this type of evaluation for every member of a large staff. I'm going to contrast this inspection model with another model called the demonstration model. So as we talk through these two models, I want you to, my hope is that you start making some connections with your lived experiences within your evaluation cycles. So again, the second type of observation model is the demonstration model, one in which the individual educator has the responsibility of demonstrating their proficiency by collecting and organizing evidence. The collection of evidence, along with reflections on the levels of proficiency, are then reviewed by the supervisor. This model supports the assertion that I am a proficient educator who can produce effective results. I'm taking consistent steps to improve my competence, and here is my evidence of these claims. Individual goals are developed by the teacher in this type of model and then reviewed and approved by the supervisor. The teacher then suggests the steps, the action steps, to be completed to accomplish those goals and works to obtain supervisor approval regarding the types of evidence to be used to demonstrate professional learning and proficiency related to identified standards of practice. In this type of model, teachers need to consider a few things. One, how can they demonstrate their skills, especially when it comes to showing evidence of student learning? How have they provided instruction that's led to gains in student achievement? And how has their teaching impacted the learning of subgroups of students? The primary difference between the demonstration model and the inspection model is the locus of control. The inspection model requires evidence collection and analysis to be within the control and responsibility of the evaluator, while those teachers working under a demonstration model share that responsibility for documenting and analyzing their effectiveness. So let's talk about some advantages of the demonstration model. For one, all educators are tasked with demonstrating their skills. Two, this model can motivate educators to demonstrate their own proficiency and really internalize the criteria that defines effectiveness in their local district. This model also requires each educator to show their competence, and because of this, educators will need to be thinking about what types of evidence they should be gathering on an ongoing basis throughout the school year, helping to keep educators focused on growing their effectiveness throughout the process. This model, another advantage, is that classroom observations and feedback can become more formative in nature, less high stakes, less summative, where the feedback from observation just becomes one of the data sources that teachers can use to demonstrate their growth and effectiveness, instead of maybe the only one. Another advantage of this model is that it can be customized to the unique responsibilities of educators working in different content areas and with diverse and unique student populations. One other advantage of this model is that teachers serving leadership roles within school improvement teams or curriculum review committees can incorporate goals and collect evidence about their effectiveness for these roles as well. While there are many benefits to the demonstration model, there are also challenges with this model, including Educators will need to learn how to document their performance, which will be a new skill for many educators. Secondly, each educator's collection of evidence is unique, which creates a challenge for fair assessment of evidence sources by the evaluator. Finally, one final challenge is if the amount of collected evidence is lacking and the teacher hasn't collected a lot of evidence, the evaluator must then decide, does that mean that the teacher is not effective or just not effectively collecting evidence? So that's the final challenge of the demonstration model. So we have our first poll question here for you to respond to. And we're going to pull that up for you here in just a second. The idea here is to take a few minutes to think about your current evaluation experience, and I want you to try to make some connections to the inspection and demonstration model concepts. And here's that poll question for you to think about, and we're going to pop up your response in just a moment here. They're on. Again, please take a few minutes to respond to this poll question. How does your lived experience with your current evaluation model help make connections to one of those models that we just talked through? The inspection model, which is more evaluator driven, or where the more of the locus of control is with the evaluator and the evidence they collect, or with the demonstration model, where it's more of a shared responsibility for that evidence collection and demonstration of effectiveness. Go and take a minute to respond to that poll question. Thank you. Please continue to respond to the poll question. And if you are finished with your response, please take a moment here to read some of the thoughts of your peer group here on the call with you today. It looks like there's a fair amount of our participants that feel that they are living in more of the inspection model, and some of our approved state models fit more in that realm, while there are some that fit a little bit more in the demonstration model as well. There is a great point here about the level of ownership and involvement when we can come up with some shared goals, either as an individual teacher or as grade levels. That is definitely a process that we would advocate for here for teacher involvement in the goal setting process. I'm glad to see that you're making some connections there. And we also have some reference here to the SLO process, which is the student learning objective method of defining criteria to help to measure for the student growth aspect of the educator evaluation. And that looks like really where the teachers feel the involvement there. So that's a really strong strategy that we have a lot of guidance for. We're going to show our website later on in our slide deck towards the end of our presentation today, and there are some links in there to more information about student growth as well as the student learning objective methods. Again, I'm going to pause here for a moment because I see a lot of questions or a lot of answers rolling in. Please take a moment here to read through the responses of your peers and see what their lived experience has been with their evaluation model. Thank you for your thoughtful responses there. It looks like we have more of a balance now as some more responses are pulling in based on connections between the demonstration and the inspection model. It's good to hear that there is some balance out there in our state with teachers feeling that they are getting some good feedback that feeds into their evaluation system, but that they also have some ownership and some opportunity to demonstrate their own effectiveness through different evidence sources. We definitely see some power in those approaches. Okay, we're going to move on from that poll question and move forward with our next chunk of content here. As we reflect on this information, okay, hold on one second. As we reflect on this information, you did spend some time considering whether the demonstration model was something that was consistent with your experiences. If the inspection model is used in your setting, think about how some aspects of the demonstration model could be used along with that inspection model. Think about what conversations can you have with your teacher leadership groups and your evaluator to support growth in evaluation practices in your district to maybe open up to some alternative approaches. Now let's spend some time talking about reflecting on our professional growth that has occurred during this evaluation cycle. Let's clarify what we mean by formative reflection during an evaluation process that's focused on continuous improvement. The formative review or reflection typically occurs sometime during the midpoint of an educator's plan. Reflection considers progress towards attaining goals set forth in your educator growth plans, as well as performance on the identified standards within the teacher evaluation rubrics. This process is most valuable when it is used to prompt thoughtful reflection by the teacher, as well as to promote a dialogue between educators and evaluators that's focused on that continuous improvement of a teacher's practice. Finally, the strength in this type of approach is it creates a vehicle to discuss necessary changes to instructional practice, to professional learning goals, or to the planned professional learning activities. When adjustments are necessary to best serve the growth of the teacher throughout the remainder of the evaluation cycle. If there are patterns of evidence that demonstrate performance that is either unsatisfactory or in need of improvement, this is a critical time for evaluators and teachers to have that discussion about that evidence so there are no surprises during the summative evaluation. And more importantly, to provide the educator with the opportunity to address areas of concern. So at a minimum, this formative review and reflection process should be an opportunity to take stock of where you are in the process right now and to have a good thorough review of the evidence that's been collected so far through classroom observations or other sources. Here's some opportunities that will help with the formative reflection stage in the evaluation cycle to be familiar and authentic for educators and more manageable for evaluators. Considering that the professional conversations that take place at this stage add meaning to the process and focus on growth while also clarifying ratings, teachers will want to ensure that they have established an effective system for reflecting on the evidence that they've received either through classroom feedback or that they've collected on their own in a manner that is thoughtful, not rushed, and that allows for some self-identification of strengths and needs. We do have another poll question here for you to think about. And this really focuses on the opportunities that you've used to engage in to support your reflection at this midpoint, this formative point, to support your reflection of your progress towards your growth goals. So we have a few options for you to choose from. Go ahead and respond to the poll question. What tools have you used to drive your reflection so far during your evaluation cycle? Go ahead and select the choices there that best match the activities that you've been using to guide your reflection. And please be sure to look to see what the practices are that are being used or not used by your fellow participants on the webinar today. It looks like the majority of participants today have had a chance to have an individual meeting with their evaluator at the midpoint to check in on progress towards growth goals, as well as maybe revise or set goals for the second part of the year. That's a great practice. We hope that everyone has that experience. And it looks like also some people are supporting their reflection with some collaborative team discussions, which is great. We had our one participant earlier mention the power of the student learning objectives approach to measuring student growth and developing those goals as a team. That can definitely support ongoing reflection. We're going to go ahead and close this poll question here in the next few seconds and move on to our next chunk of content. Okay, so we talked a little bit about strategies that we could use for reflection. Let's talk about preparing for that formative review. And this could be your review that you're doing individually with your team or with your evaluator. Let's talk about what teachers can do to be prepared for this type of reflection and collaboration. As teachers prepare for reflection and conferring with their evaluator, sufficient evidence of growth should be considered. And really we need to do that so that we can be prepared to have a meaningful conversation about our practice and the changes and the improvements that we made throughout the evaluation cycle. It's certainly not necessary to have evidence for every indicator that's on the teacher evaluation rubric by this point of the formative review process, but educators should have sufficient evidence to be able to discuss their progress, specifically towards the elements and the target areas of the growth plan. The evidence review should include feedback provided by the evaluator based on classroom observations. That's a valuable source of evidence to review during this part of the process. And this review process should also include looking at benchmark data on your professional goals and evidence of practice related back to the evaluation standards that are set by your local adopted model. Educators must work with their evaluator to clarify, to know what they're expected to provide and how much evidence they're expected to bring to the table if they're meeting with them for an evaluation conference, mid-year conference. Educators should engage in some analysis of the evidence during their formative review process. This will help ensure that they are presenting relevant data and have identified any trends or patterns in their practice or growth. And if the educator and the evaluator have a conference, this preparation will create the conditions for a richer conversation and allow for more focused feedback while supporting a shared vision of effective practice. Educators and evaluators will be well served by having some commonality in their understanding of and distinctions between the different performance levels and alignments between performance standards and school goals. Let's talk about some resources that are available to support our work. In order to provide ongoing feedback for improvement, it's critical that educators have clear and easy access to certain types of information. The suggested resources on this slide will support educators and evaluators to engage in that formative reflection and review process. Access the reflection forms within your online evaluation systems. We've also provided a reflection form in the documents for download. If you didn't grab that at the beginning of the webinar, they will be available again at the end. and an up-to-date record of the evidence as well as a brief analysis that the teachers went through to reflect on those evidence sources can support teachers to identify the patterns and trends in their performance and growth. Reviewing this benchmark data on goals will help teachers measure their progress towards their goals that they set at the beginning of the year, and using the goals from your educator plans to review and assess professional growth progress. Be sure to reference the teacher evaluation rubric as the standard for performance and the target for goal setting. Also consider district collective bargaining agreements and other evaluation requirements to be sure that your reflection meets the expectations in your local context. We focused today's webinar on using reflection within the evaluation cycle and identified some resources to support this reflection. Let's talk next about action steps that can be taken during this stage of the process. Now, many evaluators will lead the charge to schedule time with you to have this type of conversation, but if you have not received that kind of notification, you can be proactive and schedule time with your evaluator to have a formative conference with enough advance notice to allow both the educator and evaluator to prepare. Part of that communication should be a confirmation of how much documentation or evidence you're expected to bring to the conference and when you're supposed to share that information. Clarify expectations about roles for sharing evidence during the conference. And then during the conference, you can review evidence and artifacts for standards and indicators. Look through the evidence chronologically, looking for patterns and trends over time and within or across standards and indicators. Record your analysis of your evidence. Share evidence of your fulfillment of professional responsibilities. In addition to sharing the summary of evidence connected to the specific domains and elements of the evaluation rubric, the formative conference is an opportunity to review and discuss progress made toward the goals that were set at the beginning of the evaluation cycle. It's likely that the teacher has more information about goal attainment than the evaluator does. Therefore, teachers should use this opportunity to provide additional evidence about their performance on specific indicators and their progress towards their established goals. Also, teachers must acknowledge that these conferences can create an awkward moment and some potential tension. The teacher is the expert in this conversation, likely knowing more about their content area and current professional practice than their evaluator. We encourage teachers to be aware of these potential challenges and be generous to provide information and insight into their practice while avoiding any phrasing or communication that could be perceived as arrogant, demeaning, or confrontational. Instead, recognize that this is a vulnerable position for evaluators and act thoughtfully and provide a balance between sharing insight and being open to feedback and suggestion. During this formative conversation, you might decide that occasionally an educator's performance has significantly changed from the last summative evaluation or from the beginning of the year goal setting period. When this happens, the evaluator and the educator may need to create a new educator plan with goals targeted toward the specific areas in need of improvement or ideas for further growth. If a change to the educator growth plan is warranted, evaluators and educators should set up a time to talk about developing this new plan and make that a collaborative process. As we think about our next poll question, we've discussed some ways to prepare for reflection and some resources that will support analysis of progress and action steps to take individually and collaboratively to formatively review progress toward your professional goals. Please respond to this poll question with what steps you will take to reflect on the progress of your professional growth plans.
Thank you so much, everyone, for your thoughtful responses. It is so nice to see the deep content that you are providing while you are still typing. We're just going to leave that to the side for you, and we're going to continue on with the webinar content. This is Michelle, and again, thanks for joining us this afternoon. We're going to talk about strategies to support your reflection and your professional growth. Throughout the course of this webinar series, we've presented several strategies that support teacher ownership and involvement in the evaluation process. Let's take the last part of our webinar today to highlight a few of those strategies as we're considering how to support our continual professional learning and growth. Establishing effective teaching teams. Collaboration by teacher teams can have a significant impact to improve teaching and learning. However, simply having time to collaborate does not necessarily result in student achievement gains. Research has demonstrated that teacher teams that experience actual achievement gains as a result of their work are those that focus almost entirely on teaching and learning. Building the conditions to sustain and support effective teacher teams can support your reflection and efforts to take ownership of the evaluation process. As you build or reflect on your current teacher team, remember that focused, productive collaboration around instruction can really drive improvement efforts around student achievement. Teachers that share common instructional responsibilities can be the basis of an effective and highly collaborative teacher team. Having consistent opportunities dedicated to instructional collaboration supports all teachers. Highly effective teacher teams demonstrate perseverance to the goals and objectives of the team while using protocols that guide their collaboration and access opportunities to grow facilitation skills, which support their team processes. There are important roles for teams to play in self-assessment, which will strengthen and add meaning to the process. Teams should analyze student data together to mutually strengthen and reinforce one another's skills and deepen their understanding around that data. Teams may propose shared goals to collectively pursue and can collaboratively review progress toward the goals that they've made. Team time should be used to explore ways in which members can contribute to one another's growth and provide feedback for improvement throughout the year. For educators to have adequate opportunities to engage in this kind of activity, empowered teachers must plan in advance to ensure that the time they've set aside for teams to meet on a consistent, and routine basis throughout the school year. Finding and building a collaborative team time takes intentional effort and determination. If you find yourself teaching in an environment without collaborative partners, don't be discouraged. Figure out a way to be creative. Leverage your personal and social network, your virtual networks, and ISD colleagues to find common content teachers who are engaging in similar processes. We want to highlight peer observation as an impactful strategy that teams can use to support understanding of the teacher rubrics and professional growth of the teachers that are involved in the process. Peer observation is a teacher-driven approach that incorporates consistent meeting of a driven group that wants to provide each other with feedback. The process includes assembling a network and identifying a problem that the school is seeking to address. After coming to consensus on the focus areas, teachers then conduct observations as a group and then debrief their findings. This is an in-depth approach to gather feedback. Building a team for peer observation is critical. Trust must be developed amongst the group that is working together. As you're building your team, please consider the following: content and grade levels and the experience on the level. We want to be sure to have experts on teaching and learning as a part of the team. That expertise can come from master teachers, instructional coaches, and savvy instructional leaders. Certainly, beginning teachers should also be a part of this team, but an expert or experts on the team is considered to be essential. Consider also the importance of trust and collegiality as part of this process. Your team will want to define ground rules for their collaborative work to promote confidence and trust in one another and in the process. We have provided multiple resources in the documents available for download in this webinar. Please be sure to download those documents and remember to save them to support your future work around peer observations as a powerful tool to support your professional learning and your growth.
Unpacking the framework is another strategy to support reflection, collaboration, and growth, which is intentionally unpacking your locally adapted evaluation framework. Teams should work together over time to unpack the rubric, engage in dialogue or discussion around topics such as the distinctions between performance levels, alignment between performance standards and school goals, or the definitions of certain indicators. These conversations serve to deepen the professional culture around improving practice and can contribute to shared sense of educator empowerment and ownership of the professional growth. This type of conversation can help you identify your growth edges, supporting your reflective review of goals and growth progress. Remember, the evaluation tool establishes the common definition of excellent instruction and sets high expectations for instruction in all classrooms and settings. A collaborative process to break down, segment, and unpack the evaluation framework is a powerful opportunity for educators to build a shared understanding and definition of effective teaching across grade levels and content areas. The adopted rubric is an indispensable resource for your school leadership team and the staff members at your school. We believe that breaking down the rubric into classroom observable language can bring clarity and transparency to the evaluation process, while supporting educator growth and ultimately student learning. The rubric can be unpacked in a variety of contexts, at a department or grade level meeting, or at a whole staff meeting. Examining the standards, the indicators, and elements in smaller chunks can be a powerful way to develop a rich, detailed, and shared picture of what effective practices look like. That shared understanding is the foundation for strong professional cultures that can support the growth of learning of every educator at your school. Along with this webinar, we've included a graphic organizer that can be used to support your work with unpacking the framework. Again, this is available for you in the downloadable section at the end of the webinar. We're going to go ahead and move to the next reflect and respond question. We'd like you to take a brief moment to tell us how you will get involved and take ownership of your evaluation between now and your year-end summative evaluation. Again, thank you so much for your thoughtful responses. We've got a great group of educators with us this afternoon, so thank you again for your attentiveness. And we're going to go ahead and leave those to the side for you, allowing you to continue with your feedback. And we're going to go ahead and continue on. Just a reminder, our upcoming webinar events, the next one in the series, and it's going to be the last one in the series, is going to be on April 19th. So please go ahead and mark your calendars. Don't forget to register for that one. The other one to let your administrators know about will take place next Friday, and the following dates are there on the upcoming events page. Also, just as a quick reminder to you, our resources page has a ton of information regarding opportunities and what's going on here in the educator evaluation unit. And please go ahead and consider bookmarking that, because that has been one of the things we want to make sure that we promote and communicate out to those of you in the field. Also, to connect with us a little bit further, we wanted to make sure that you have our email and our phone number should you need to contact us directly. We are always here to support you in your endeavors, and we want to let you know how much we appreciate all the work and the great work that you do with our students across the state. Also, we wanted to let you know that the documents will be available for download. And just as a quick reminder, that question that was posted in the lobby prior to the start of our session this afternoon, we'll go ahead and put that back up in just a few minutes, but also that will be a part of the documents that Joe will go ahead and send out after the webinar concludes with the FAQs, and that will be available for you as well. It was certainly our pleasure to share this information with you today. We hope that, again, you have found the content informative. Please contact us to support your efforts with educator evaluation. Again, please click on the survey link to provide feedback on today's webinar or to provide us some information regarding some content. Thank you again for your participation, and please be looking for a follow-up email to today's webinar with the PDF, a recording of today's presentation, an expanded Q&A document addressing any questions posted by our great participants that joined us this afternoon, and a link to feedback survey for Sketch Credit. Again, this is Michelle Imbranoni, and with my colleagues Joe Priest and Brian Lloyd, it's been our pleasure to work with you this afternoon, and have a wonderful day.